Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we translate corporate jargon into plain English. Today we're diving into Vertex Pharmaceuticals' latest quarterly report. Get ready for a bit of a roller coaster because while their sales are up, profits took a bit of a nosedive. Was it a bad batch of medicine? Did they get sued? Let's find out. Before we jump in, if you're into understanding what these corporate giants are really up to, subscribe and hit the like button. Also, come chat with us about this stuff in the Discord server. There's a link in the video description. This report covers Vertex's performance for the first 3 months of 2025, ending in March. It's basically a snapshot of how the company did financially during that time. We're talking revenues, expenses, and all that good stuff. Okay, let's get to the numbers that really matter. Their total product revenue was about $276 billion compared to $269 billion the year before, so sales are up, but let's see if that translates to profit. Net income or profit actually went down from almost $1.1 billion to about $646 million. That's a pretty big drop, so what happened? Let's dig deeper. It went down by over 40%, which means they lost out on almost half the potential profit. Their cost of sales, the direct cost of making and selling their drugs, went up a bit, but not nearly enough to explain the profit drop. So what's the real culprit? Their research and development expenses jumped up from around 789 million NEA to nearly $980 million. They are spending more on coming up with new drugs. That is probably a good thing for the future, but it costs money now. They also spent more on selling and running the company, which is general and administrative. That went up from $343 million to almost $400 million. A good portion of that is due to a new launch that we will touch on. This is where the big problem lies. There's a charge listed as intangible asset impairment for a whopping $379 million. What does that even mean? Well, Vertex had an asset on their books, probably related to some drug research they bought, but now they've decided it's not worth what they thought it was. They had to write it down, and that's a major hit to their profits. Let's look at another expense that might have changed. Acquired in process research and development, or AIP-R&D. Think of this as money they spend buying the rights to research other companies have already started. That actually went down significantly, so that's helping a little bit, but not enough to make up for that intangible asset write-down. Now let's look at Vertex's bank account. They have over $11.3 billion in cash and easily sellable investments. That's a decent little piggy bank. They could buy a sports team with that kind of money. Their operating activities, or the cash they are getting from actually selling drugs, went down almost $500 million from $1.3 billion last year to just over $800 million this year. Looking at investing activities, which is money spent to buy buildings, equipment, etc. The company didn't spend that much. This is a good sign they aren't digging too much into their reserves. They only spent $55 million this quarter on this. Now, their financing activities, such as buying back their own stock, used a lot of money. This quarter, they used about $680 million compared to only $357 million last year. They are spending a lot of money to buy back shares, which is not bad. Just know where the money is going. Their marketable for sale debt, which is investments they plan on selling in the short term, have quite a bit of gross unrealized loss of almost $2.2 million. I wouldn't call this a big deal as they have over $6 billion of these investments, so this is a tiny percentage. So the numbers we saw earlier in the report came from sales of Trikafta, which made up most of the sales at over $2.5 billion. They saw some good revenue coming out of North America, but lost about 5% from sales outside. Europe was the biggest negative contributor there, which they attribute to Russia. We've covered most of the important data here. One other interesting nugget, it looks like one of their VPs, Amit Sachdev, and Jonathan Biller, their chief legal officer, adopted plans to sell a large number of shares this year. Keep in mind, though, that executives often do this for planning purposes. It's not necessarily them cashing out of a company. Now that we've looked over the numbers, let's get into the company's future. Vertex is talking about a lot of growth initiatives, new drugs, new markets, etc. I like that they are trying to become more than just a one-trick pony. They are starting new trials for children. They want to create new therapies for different types of patients and extend the sales to other countries. This means they want to invest in more products for the future and not only sell to current customers. In terms of expanding, they're moving into other diseases like type 1 diabetes. They expect data to come in soon, which will lead to a marketing push in 2026. This kind of time horizon is very normal into other diseases like type 1 diabetes. They expect data to come in soon, which will lead to a marketing push in 2026. This kind of time horizon is very normal. In the drug business, it takes years. In March of this year, they tested VX-364 in people with type 1 diabetes, but that unfortunately didn't work out, so they had to write down the value of the research they did, and that leads to the impairment charges we touched on. They expect that some new regulation coming out will force them to pay an extra 15% on taxes on a per country basis, which will not really change anything for the company as of now. Alright, that's the rundown of Vertex Pharmaceuticals' most recent quarterly report. And Vertex is an interesting company right now. They are really dominant in the cystic fibrosis space, and their new therapies offer some great opportunity, but they will need to figure out their next growth driver to avoid becoming a one-product company with all of their money being tied to that one product. Their long-term success is tied to how well they can diversify their portfolio, and if they can keep their operations lean to avoid high expenses. Their success in trials and acquisitions will lead to a great result for Vertex. But as we saw, research is very risky and not every bet pays off and leads to a profit. And make sure to keep an eye on their pipeline. What do you think about Vertex? What are their chances of succeeding? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this analysis, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the Discord server in the description to join our growing community. See you next time.